All right, so are you ready to dive into some seriously creepy hitchhiking horror stories? You sent over this video from the Mr. Nightmare YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and I have to say it's pretty unsettling,
Oh,
even
no.
before you get into the individual
Right.
stories.
It's because Mr. Nightmare really focuses on real-life experiences,
Right.
and they're often told directly by the people who live through them.
Yeah,
It's one thing to watch a horror movie,
right.
but when you know that these things actually happen to people,
Yeah,
it really gets under your skin.
absolutely. It makes you think, like,
Yeah.
why are we so drawn to these tales of terror on the open road?
Right.
Is it the vulnerability of, like, being alone in a stranger's car?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
There's that primal fear we all share.
Okay.
The fear of the unknown, of
Yeah.
being in a situation where we have no control.
Right.
And hitchhiking taps right into that.
Absolutely.
You're essentially putting your life in the hands of someone you've never met, hoping they'll deliver you safely to your destination.
Yeah.
And as we'll see in these stories, that hope can be brutally shattered.
Yeah. Okay. So the first story, The Woman in the Rain, starts off pretty classic.
Okay.
A woman is driving home late at night when she sees an older woman caught in a downpour,
Yeah,
and she decides to offer her a ride.
right. A good deed.
Yeah.
It's interesting how the story uses subtle details to build that tension.
Okay.
The hitchhiker's described as missing teeth and generally unkempt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, missing teeth could simply be a sign of hardship
Right.
or poor dental care.
Mm-hmm.
But in this context, it triggers our subconscious anxieties.
Oh,
That
yeah.
makes us question her backstory and whether she might be more than just a harmless old lady.
Right. It's like our brains are wired to look for those subtle cues,
Yeah.
those little details that tell us if something is safe or dangerous.
Absolutely.
And in this case, those missing teeth are setting off all sorts of alarm bells, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're primed to see potential threats,
Yeah.
especially in unfamiliar situations.
Mhm.
It's a survival mechanism that served us well throughout human history.
Totally. But sometimes that instinct can lead us to make assumptions, to
Yeah.
judge someone based on appearances.
Right.
And that's what makes this story so fascinating because, as it turns out, the hitchhiker isn't just odd. She's straight up unsettling.
Yeah.
The driver stops at a gas station, and when she comes back, the hitchhiker has vanished.
Poof.
Gone.
The story leaves this disappearance unexplained,
Right.
which adds to the creep factor.
Yeah.
Did she slip out unnoticed while the driver was in the store?
Right.
Or did something more sinister happen?
Yeah.
The uncertainty fuels our imagination and makes us question what we would do in that
I
situation.
might be freaking out.
Right.
And the driver does have that moment of, wait, what just happened? But it gets way creepier.
Oh, yeah.
That night, the driver thinks she sees the hitchhiker in her apartment.
Oh, no.
A shadowy figure crouching in the corner of her room.
This detail is brilliant because it blurs the lines between reality and paranoia. Is the driver truly being stalked by this mysterious hitchhiker? Or is it just a figment of her imagination?
Yeah.
The story plays with our fear of the unknown, that sense that something sinister might be lurking just beyond our perception.
And just when you think it can't get weirder,
Right.
the driver finds damp patches in her car and realizes her blanket is missing.
What?
It's like the hitchhiker was sleeping in her car.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, how did she even get in there?
Right.
Did she sneak in at the gas station?
The story never explicitly answers that question, which adds to the unsettling ambiguity.
Right.
It leads the listener to ponder the possibilities, to consider the implications of what might have happened during that brief stop at the gas station.
See, this is what I love about these kinds of stories. It's
Yeah.
not just the jump scares or the gore.
Right.
It's that psychological thriller aspect.
It messes with your mind.
Yeah, they make you question everything and everyone.
And that's what makes them so effective.
Yeah.
They tap into our deepest fears. The ones that whisper in the back of our minds, telling us to be wary, to trust no one.
So what does this story tell us about the dangers of picking up hitchhikers?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a bad idea,
Right.
but is there something more nuanced going on here?
I think it speaks to the inherent risk we take when we trust strangers.
Yeah,
We live in a world where we're constantly told to be wary of the unknown.
right.
Yet there's a part of us that wants to believe in the good in people.
Yeah.
This story reminds us that while kindness is important,
Uh-huh.
it's also crucial to be discerning and to trust our instincts when something feels off.
Right.
even if it means going against societal norms or appearing rude.
You've given me a lot to think about, and
Yeah.
that's just the first story. I'm a little nervous to hear what's next.
Okay.
This next one is called The Abandoned Partygoer, and it's a bit different, but still super unsettling.
This one hits close to home for anyone who's ever had a bit too much fun at a party and found themselves in a vulnerable situation.
Right.
It's about Sarah, a young woman who gets stranded at a party after her friend ditches her.
Uh-huh.
To make matters worse,
Yeah.
she's also quite intoxicated,
Oh, no.
which, as we know, can seriously impair judgment.
Okay, so right away, we have a protagonist who's vulnerable.
Yeah,
She's alone, intoxicated, and without a way to contact anyone for help.
not a good combination.
Not a good combination at all.
And this story really explores that theme of vulnerability
Okay.
and how alcohol can amplify the risks we take.
Right.
Sarah, desperate to get home, makes a series of decisions that put her in even greater danger.
Yeah, like leaving her phone in her friend's car.
Yeah.
Not the smartest move, especially when you're already in a compromised state.
Not at all.
It's like she's setting herself up for disaster.
It's a classic example of how alcohol can cloud our judgment
Yeah.
and lead us to make choices we wouldn't normally make.
Right.
It lowers our inhibitions, making us more susceptible to suggestion
Okay.
and more likely to take risks.
Yeah.
And in this case, that risk is hitchhiking with a complete stranger.
Okay, hold on. We've got to pause right there because this is getting good.
Okay.
We'll be right back with the rest of this terrifying tale. Don't go anywhere.
I'm on the edge of my seat. So are you ready to hear what happens to Sarah?
Oh, yeah, I'm hooked. I need to know what happens next.
Well, it doesn't start well.
Okay.
She ends up getting a ride from an older man
Okay.
who right off the bat gives off some seriously creepy vibes. And what's interesting here is how the story uses foreshadowing
Okay.
to build suspense.
You mean like those little hints that something bad is about to happen?
Exactly. For example, the man insists that Sarah leave her phone in the car.
Oh.
He claims it's for her safety, but it's a classic tactic used by predators to isolate their victims
Yeah.
and cut off their access to help.
Wow. I didn't even think of it that way.
Yeah.
It seemed like a weird request, but I just figured he was being overly cautious.
And then there's this comment about Sarah being an easy target.
Right.
It's a subtle but menacing remark that reveals his true intentions.
Okay.
He's not seeing her as a person in need of help.
Yeah.
He's seeing her as a vulnerable target.
It's amazing how those seemingly small details
Right.
can completely change the tone of a story.
Yeah.
They're like little red flags
Right.
that we as viewers or listeners are supposed to pick up on.
And that's what makes these stories so compelling.
Yeah.
They engage us on a subconscious level,
Okay.
making us analyze the character's actions and motivations,
Right.
trying to figure out who's trustworthy and who's not.
So what happens next? Does Sarah realize she's in danger?
Unfortunately, due to her intoxicated state,
Okay.
she doesn't fully grasp the gravity of the situation.
Oh, no.
Her judgment is clouded,
Hmm.
and she's more focused on getting home
Yeah.
than on recognizing the potential threat.
Oh, man, that's frustrating.
I know.
It's like watching a horror movie where you just want to yell at the screen, "Don't go in there!"
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's also what makes these stories so relatable. We've all been in situations
Yeah.
where, looking back, we realize we could have made better choices.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. But thankfully, this story has a bit of a twist, right?
Yes.
Yes.
In a stroke of luck, a police car pulls them over for a routine traffic stop.
Wow. Okay.
And this is where Sarah's quick thinking comes in.
Okay.
Despite her fear and intoxication, she manages to signal to the officers that something is wrong.
Wow, that's incredible.
Right.
It's like in those movies where the protagonist finds a way to escape just in the nick of time.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of situations, there's always hope.
Yeah.
And it highlights the importance of trusting our instincts
Right.
and finding a way to reach out for help, even if it seems impossible.
So in the end, Sarah escapes a potentially dangerous situation, but it's a close call.
Yeah,
That could have easily gone the other way.
absolutely.
Yeah.
This story is a powerful reminder about the importance of personal safety, especially when alcohol is involved.
Right.
It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of letting our guard down and making ourselves vulnerable to those who might prey on the unsuspecting.
Okay, that was intense.
I know, right?
I need a moment to process all of that.
Take a deep breath.
But we've still got 2 more stories to go, right?
We do.
What's next on our hitchhiking horror journey?
Next up is a story that takes us to a college campus
Ooh, college.
where bad decisions and peer pressure often collide.
Yeah, that brings back memories, both good and bad,
Right.
but I have a feeling this story is going to lean heavily on the bad.
You might be right about that one.
So what happens in this one? This one's called The Vanishing College Student.
This story centers around Emily,
Okay.
a college student who goes to a frat party.
Okay.
And like many young people in that environment, drinks a bit too much.
Okay.
And I'm not just talking about a few beers, we're talking blackout drunk.
All right, so we've got a protagonist who's intoxicated
Uh-huh.
and in an unfamiliar environment.
Yeah.
Already the alarm bells are starting to ring.
Right. And to
Ah.
make matters worse, she ends up completely blacking out. When she wakes up the next morning, she's on the side of a deserted road with absolutely no memory of how she got there.
That is the ultimate nightmare scenario. Waking up in a strange place with no recollection of the night before is scary enough.
Right.
But imagine being completely alone without your phone or belongings in an unfamiliar area.
Right.
Talk about a recipe for disaster.
It's a situation that plays on our primal fears of disorientation and vulnerability.
Yeah.
And the story doesn't shy away from highlighting the potential dangers
Okay.
that come with excessive drinking, especially for young women in unfamiliar environments.
So what does Emily do?
Yeah.
I mean, she's basically stranded with no way to contact anyone.
Desperate and disoriented, she flags down a car hoping for help.
Okay.
And at first the driver, an older man, seems like a good Samaritan.
Okay.
He's friendly, offers her water, and seems genuinely concerned for her well-being.
Okay, but I'm guessing that's not the whole story, right?
You got it.
There's always a twist in these tales.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
As they drive, the driver's demeanor starts to shift.
Okay.
He begins asking Emily increasingly personal questions,
Oh.
making her feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Then he starts making inappropriate comments,
Oh, no.
even touching her arm in a way that makes her skin crawl.
Ugh. That's every woman's worst nightmare.
Right.
It's that feeling of being trapped,
Yeah.
of knowing something is wrong, but not knowing how to escape the situation.
Exactly. And what's particularly chilling about this story is how it highlights the subtle ways in which predators can manipulate their victims.
Right.
They often start by appearing helpful and trustworthy,
Right.
lulling their targets into a false sense of security before revealing their true intentions.
It's like they're playing a game,
Yeah.
testing the waters to see how far they can push before their victim reacts.
Right.
And in Emily's case, she's already vulnerable due to her intoxicated state,
Right.
making her an even easier target.
That's right. The story really emphasizes the importance of trusting our gut instincts, even when we're in a vulnerable state. If something feels wrong, it probably is.
So how does Emily get out of this situation? Does she confront the driver?
Well, she does try to reason with him to get him to take her back to campus,
Okay.
but he ignores her pleas, continuing to drive further and further away from her intended destination.
Oh, no, that's terrifying.
Right.
She's basically at his mercy at this point.
Exactly. It's a classic horror trope. The protagonist trapped in a car with a creepy stranger,
Yeah.
heading towards an unknown and potentially dangerous destination.
Yeah.
And just when it seems like all hope is lost, Emily sees an opportunity.
Wait, don't tell me. She manages to escape.
Yes. Taking a huge risk, she waits for the driver to slow down, then throws open the car door and makes a run for it.
Oh my God.
She sprints into the woods, adrenaline pumping,
Yeah.
knowing that if he catches her, the consequences could be dire.
That's some serious bravery. I don't know if I could have done that.
Right.
I'd probably just freeze up in fear.
It's a testament to the power of the human survival instinct.
Yeah.
Even in the face of extreme danger, we can find the strength to fight back, to protect ourselves.
So she escapes into the woods, but what happens next? Does the driver chase after her?
Thankfully, he doesn't.
Okay.
Emily hides in the underbrush, heart pounding, until she's sure he's gone.
Okay.
She's shaken and terrified, but she's alive.
Yeah.
Eventually, she manages to flag down another car and get a ride back to campus.
Okay.
But the experience leaves her traumatized, forever wary of strangers
Right.
and the potential dangers that lurk in the shadows.
Wow, that story is just, I don't even know what to say. It's a reminder that even in seemingly safe environments like a college campus, danger can lurk just around the corner.
And it highlights the importance of being vigilant, of trusting our gut feelings, and of never letting our guard down, especially when we're vulnerable. It's a lesson that Emily learns the hard way,
Yeah.
a lesson that she carries with her long after the physical scars have healed.
Okay, I'm officially on edge now. And we still got one more story to go.
We do.
This is turning out to be quite the deep dive into the dark side of human nature.
And this final story, titled The French Serial Killer, is perhaps the most chilling of them all.
Okay.
It's a slow burn filled with subtle tension and a creeping sense of dread
All right.
that culminates in a truly unsettling climax.
All right. Hit me with it. What makes this one stand out from the others?
This story takes us to the open roads of France,
Okay.
where a young woman traveling solo decides to hitchhike to her next destination.
Right.
She's adventurous, trusting,
Yeah.
and perhaps a bit naive about the potential dangers that lurk on the roadside.
So right away, we have a protagonist who's putting herself in a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
Traveling alone, relying on the kindness of strangers.
Right.
It's a recipe for potential disaster.
And what makes this story so effective is how it plays with our expectations.
Okay.
At first, the encounter seems completely ordinary.
Okay.
The driver is a middle-aged French man, seemingly harmless and even charming in a quirky sort of way.
Uh-huh.
They make small talk, and he even shows her pictures of his ex-girlfriends.
Okay.
But beneath the surface of this seemingly normal interaction,
Yeah.
there are subtle hints of something darker, something unsettling.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of hints are we talking about? Give me some details.
Well, for starters, there's his insistence on taking a shortcut through a dense, dark forest.
Oh, okay.
And as they drive deeper into the woods, the atmosphere becomes increasingly oppressive.
Yeah.
The trees close in on the road. Sunlight struggles to penetrate the thick canopy,
Yeah.
and a strange silence falls over the car.
I can already feel the tension building.
Right?
It's like one of those scenes in a horror movie where you just know something bad is about to happen.
Exactly. The setting itself becomes a character,
Right.
amplifying this sense of isolation and vulnerability.
Yeah.
And then there's the driver's sudden shift in behavior.
Oh.
He stops speaking English,
No.
further isolating the protagonist
Yeah.
and heightening her sense of unease.
That's such a creepy detail.
I know.
It's like he's intentionally trying to make her feel uncomfortable to assert his dominance over the situation.
Precisely. And as the story unfolds,
Okay.
we learn more about the driver's past,
Okay.
uncovering bits and pieces of information that paint a disturbing picture.
Okay, spill the tea. What do we find out about this creepy driver?
Well, at one point, he casually reveals a collection of passports belonging to his deceased ex-girlfriends.
Wait, what? That's not just creepy, that's full-blown terrifying.
Right.
It's like something out of a serial killer movie.
It's a chilling detail that completely changes our perception of the driver.
Right.
It transforms him from a harmless eccentric into a potential threat, someone with a dark and possibly violent past.
Okay, I'm officially freaked out. And I'm guessing this is where things take a turn for the worse, right?
You're right to be worried.
Okay.
As the car slows down deep in the woods,
Uh-oh.
the protagonist realizes the true danger of her situation.
Yeah.
She's alone, miles from civilization,
Right.
trapped in a car with a man who may be a serial killer.
Oh my God.
And in that moment of stark terror, she prepares to fight for her life.
Oh my gosh. This is intense. What does she do? Does she try to escape?
She considers her options,
Yeah.
but there's nowhere to run.
Right.
She's in the middle of a dense forest, miles from any sign of civilization.
Right.
And the driver, sensing her fear, seems to be enjoying her terror.
Yeah.
He's toying with her, savoring the power he holds over her.
This is giving me chills.
I know.
It's that classic cat and mouse game that horror movies do so well.
And just when the tension reaches its peak,
Yeah.
when the protagonist is convinced that her time has come,
Oh my God.
the story takes an unexpected turn.
Okay.
The driver suddenly speeds out of the woods and back onto the highway,
Wait, what?
dropping the protagonist off without further incident.
That's it. He just lets her go after all that buildup.
It's a jarring shift in the narrative that leaves the listener reeling.
Yeah.
We're left wondering why he spared her life.
Right.
What motivated his sudden change of heart?
Huh.
Was it her quiet defiance? Did he sense her strength and willingness to fight back?
Okay.
Or was it something else entirely?
Ugh. The suspense is killing me. I need answers.
Right.
But I have a feeling this story isn't going to provide any easy explanations.
You're right. And that's what makes it so unsettling.
Yeah.
We're left to ponder the possibilities,
Right.
to grapple with the ambiguity of the situation.
Okay. But there's got to be more to the story, right? We can't just leave it there.
Oh, there's more.
Okay.
But I think we've had enough chills for one day. We'll pick up this terrifying tale and unravel its final twist when we return for the final part of our deep dive.
All right, listener, take a deep breath. Maybe grab a comforting beverage because when we come back, things are going to get even creepier.
All right, so remember that French driver we were talking about?
Oh, yeah, the one with the passports. That was seriously creepy.
Well, it gets even creepier.
Oh, no.
The protagonist later finds a news article
Uh-huh.
about a serial killer
Okay.
who preyed on young women hitchhiking in France.
Oh my God.
And you'll never guess who it turns out to be.
Oh my God. It's the driver, isn't it?
It is?
I knew it, but it's still just so disturbing to think she was so close
Right.
to becoming another one of his victims.
Makes you wonder why he let her go.
Right. Like, what went through his mind when he decided to spare her life?
Yeah, was there some flicker of humanity in him
Yeah.
that stopped him from taking her life?
Right.
Or was it something more calculated and sinister?
Yeah.
Maybe he just got bored with the game and
Ugh.
realized she was too much of a risk.
Right. It's unsettling to think we might never know the real reason.
It is, and that's what makes these stories so powerful.
Right. They force us to confront the darkness that exists in the world,
Yeah.
the reality that evil can hide beneath the surface of even the most seemingly normal people.
And they remind us that our intuition isn't foolproof.
Right.
Sometimes we just can't predict what other people will do.
Totally, no matter how hard we try to read the signs.
So what can we take away from all these stories?
Yeah. What have we learned from these hitchhiking horrors?
I think the big takeaway here is the importance of being cautious.
Okay.
These stories are like warnings.
Yeah.
They remind us that danger can be anywhere,
Right.
that trusting strangers can be risky, and that even with things like ride-sharing apps and GPS,
Yeah.
the open road can still be a dangerous place.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that while we can't always control the situations we end up in,
Right.
we can choose how we react to them.
Exactly.
We can choose to be aware of our surroundings, to trust our gut, and to do what we need to protect ourselves.
Yeah,
Even if that means going against what's considered normal or being a little rude,
absolutely.
these stories might make us think twice about picking up a hitchhiker or even traveling alone, but they also show how resilient people can be.
That's true. In each of these stories, the protagonists faced unbelievable fear and danger,
Yeah.
but they still found a way to survive.
Yeah, they did. They came out on the other side.
They remind us that even when things seem really bad, there's still hope.
Yeah.
And that even when we feel vulnerable and alone, we have the strength to get through difficult situations.
So as we go about our lives,
Yeah,
let's remember these stories and what they teach us.
good idea.
Let's be aware of what's around us, trust our instincts, and never underestimate how strong we can be.
Well said.
And if you ever find yourself on a deserted road,
Oh, yeah.
deciding whether to pick up a hitchhiker or not,
Big decision.
remember what we talked about today
Right.
and be very careful.
Be safe out there.
Well, this has been quite a journey.
It has.
Thanks for exploring these hitchhiking horrors with me.
My pleasure.
And listener, if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to check out our other episodes.
Yeah, we've got plenty more.
We've got lots more deep dives waiting to take you on a wild ride through all sorts of interesting stuff.
Exactly.
So stay curious and maybe keep a nightlight on tonight.
Good advice.